we are creating the platform of the future, that we're going to do it in a way that no one does it.
Health and medicine and wellness is all converging and going because of real science.
So I think it's a real opportunity to just give the candid truth. I'm ready to have some fun. Well, hi, I'm Blake Mallen, and we are sitting here in the Herbalife home office, right in the middle of LA Live at the center of Los Angeles, California. And I'm joined by two individuals that I've had the chance to spend a lot of time, a lot of years with Brian on one side, and a lot of time over the last 6 months with Stephan on the other, to have a real candid conversation. A first for all three of us in this format. But to my right, we have Stephan Gratziani, brand new CEO of Herbalife, and Brian Underwood, co-founder and CEO of Pruvit. And this is the first time we've had a chance to have a conversation with the three of us. So thank both of you for being here. Ready to have some fun today.
First time since probably public news of the acquisition, and a lot of things have happened since, even in the short period of time that the news has hit. But definitely the first time to talk about it. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And thank you for flying all the way out to have the conversation here as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. And like Stephan said, lots happened in just 30 days. So, a lot to digest, a lot of excitement, and super happy to be here.
Yeah. So as both of you said, so I think it was March 12th. So March 12th, press release goes out, right, announcing Herbalife acquiring Pruvit and Pro2col. I know my inbox has been blown up. I'm sure your inboxes, right, as well, from all over the channel of like, what is this? This is huge news across the entire industry. So I know this is the first time we get to have kind of a real conversation of like, what does it really mean? Kind of the story behind it. We want to get into all of that, really tell the world for the first time, right, where this is going. But I think before we get there, let's kind of rewind and maybe start with some personal stories. Maybe Stephan, we'll start with you, because people now know brand new CEO, but obviously not new to Herbalife. So for those that don't know your journey, maybe take us back to where this all began. Yeah, I want to go way back. I want to go for people that outside the Herbalife walls, because I know they know your journey. Tell us about you and really what led to this moment.
Okay, so born in the U.S., Portland, Oregon. Grew up, wasn't very interested in anything except for cycling from about the age of 15. It really became my passion. And I decided at 19 to move from the US to Europe because I wanted to be a professional cyclist. So for me, I dreamt of racing the Tour de France and living that lifestyle. It took about 2.5 years to figure out I would never race in the Tour de France, and that it was more of a dream than anything, but it was a great experience. I loved being in Europe. I loved the experience of the culture, just the lifestyle, and I wanted to stay. And I was actually looking for some type of a job. My French was okay, and I ended up 1991 finding myself through a newspaper ad invited to an Herbalife opportunity meeting, and discovering in 1991 at the age of 22, almost 23, Herbalife. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning. Now fast forward, I never would have imagined from that meeting in Paris that I would be stepping into a role of CEO. I at that time I was just looking for a way to make money, and I'd never heard of this opportunity to actually start and to work with customers and to build an organization and to kind of have this type of income. I just didn't know it existed. So for me, it was like discovering something very special. And for 22.5 years, at the time, by the way, Herbalife was in 12 markets. Mm-hmm. And so, 12 markets, the company was probably doing, $200 million or $300 million in sales. And I'll just say that Mark Hughes, at the time, the founder of Herbalife, he was just an incredible person to listen to his vision. He wanted to take Herbalife around the world, so passionate about people's health, and at the time focused on weight loss, primarily because of what had happened to his mom. Mm-hmm. And I just was very lucky to fall into a company, a community with opportunity, a community where personal development was just a huge part, and becoming more and making a difference, making an impact in other people's lives through products and through opportunity and through community. And so I spent 32 and a half years building my business as Herbalife expanded worldwide. I had a chance, I was young, I traveled the world, went to different markets, different cultures. And so through that journey, got to a level in the company that is one of the top levels in the company. And going through 3 decades of an industry and seeing how the world changed. And I hate to do this because it really kind of dates me, but there was a time before cell phones, right? There was a time before, the internet and,
social
FaceTime
media, all
and
the things.
all of the opportunities that we have today. And seeing the changes over time, number one, from a technology and how it impacted the industry and the opportunity, but also seeing the changes from a health and wellness opportunity and from a weight loss opportunity. And so living through the 3 decades and having experienced building a business with Herbalife, and then understanding that our industry overall and the opportunity overall, the landscape was changing, and that it was really time to look and be forward thinking about how do we approach the next 10 and 20 years. And so the opportunity when it came to step into a role to be a part of the company, I just couldn't say no. Because
how did that opportunity come? Because it's a unique story, right? So like 32 years in the field as a distributor, right? One of the top earners, right, over that period of time, a very successful business.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, right, to a CEO seat, like.
Right. Well, I guess for
And
32.
a complete shift in lifestyle.
Total shift in a lifestyle. Yeah. I mean, one of the beauties of being a distributor is you control your life to a certain extent. You work when you work, you travel when you travel, you work with who you want to work with. And so I think really how it came about, the first opportunity probably goes back about 13 years ago, where, Michael Johnson, who came into the company after Mark Hughes, and Michael came from a background of president of Disney, was an entrepreneur, worked with one of the biggest brands in the world.
Yeah.
And when he came to Herbalife, he really took Herbalife to the next level from just a brand perspective.
Well, outsider looking, and all of a sudden you have Herbalife on,
David Beckham
and Cristiano and the Galaxy, and I remember watching that all of a sudden, the building that we're in right now in the heart of LA.
Yeah, and then there was so much in the background, the seed to feed. I mean, at the time that he stepped into Herbalife, maybe Herbalife was 800 employees, taking it to over 8,000 employees. We probably manufactured 97% of our products outside, third-party manufacturing, vertically integrated, everything, seed to feed, and really just brought Herbalife to a point where, his thing was Main Street. Like, let's take Herbalife and actually put it on the jerseys and make it a household name, the same way Disney became a household name. And so his impact, and then our friendship, and just working as a top leader, because he worked very closely with the top leaders, about 14 years ago, he was like, why don't you think about coming into the company? And I was at Chairman's Club at the time. I'm like, and I knew how hard they worked. And I didn't see a need, quite honestly, for it. And so I was kind of like, and for a hot minute I thought about it, but it was like, I really enjoy my life. Then, and it's not it's about kind of speaking in a certain way but we did have a couple of people that succeeded Michael. And so when Michael was coming back for his 3rd time as CEO, so his three-peat, and at the time I was stepping onto the board, or just prior to coming onto the board, he said, if I come back, will you come in?
Wow. That's a big conversation.
Yeah, it's a big conversation. It's one of those kind of, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I didn't have any reason not to. And I also knew if I didn't take the role and didn't step in, then I would forever have to hold my peace on what I thought Herbalife could become, and what kind of strategy we should do, and what kind of moves the company should make, and how we should do things for distributors. So it was kind of like in that moment, a moment of truth for me. It was like, either shut up, or step up, one of the two. And so the lifestyle change that you're talking about, it is tremendous. Going from a founder circle to, chief strategy officer, president, and CEO, but the passion for Herbalife, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now that passion gets to be put into energy and focus and direction to make a bigger impact. As a distributor, I always had an opportunity to make an impact. Now it's a bigger impact. So, which is part of the reason why, I think all of this came together. And yeah, so that's the story.
I mean, I'd say probably the biggest reason that we're all sitting here. And I wish everybody, watching this could see the whole wall behind us. It's my favorite part of this whole building. And for those out there, you might be able to see we have a giant wall lit up that, goes across this entire room that is the timeline of Herbalife. And you mentioned Mark Hughes, like the very beginning, and everybody, no matter what company, like everybody knows the story and the legend of Mark Hughes, right? He wasn't just the founder of Herbalife, he really pioneered a lot of what this channel has become today. And then you go through the history and, Jim Rohn, right? Kind of was birthed out of these walls, and now that ripple has impacted so many of us. I mean, us as well, just as leaders. But I love kind of fast forwarding and seeing your photo on the end. So it's like it started with this distributor heart and vision, and now this new era, right, is with your story bringing us there. So I mean, I do think it's rare, inspirational, and I think it's a huge reason why we're both here. And Brian, kind of same question over to you. I mean, obviously, decades in the industry, different path. Maybe for those that don't know your full story, the personal life kind of pre-direct selling, and maybe a little bit of what has led us to where we're at today.
Yeah, no, I think the story's amazing, right? You look at the timeline, and I hear Stephan's timeline, and I think we all have a timeline in life. Like if you kind of go back to how all of our lives have progressed, it's pretty amazing to see what doors and decisions, kind of the butterfly effect, get us to where we are. And so as you're talking about your journey, obviously we're probably all thinking about our journey. And if you would have told me back in 1992, I came up very privileged. I had a mom and dad who always encouraged me to believe in my dreams and to, go for it, basically. My dad was an entrepreneur and a CPA, and I played sports and basketball my whole life. So, a lot of personal development, I think, is really integrated into athletics. I think athletics are one of the best things young people can get involved with, whether just in terms of learning how to deal with adversity, being a good teammate, discipline. And in my high school, one of my high school basketball coaches got involved in a company called Excel Telecommunications. And it was kind of my first venture on entrepreneurship. I heard him with a flip chart, turning over pages, talking to my dad about making some extra income. And I was just eavesdropping on it. And, at the time you're in college, I was in college, and you're starting to want to be more independent, wanted more money than I had. And my dad basically said, this isn't for me. And when Coach Hallmark left, I went over to my dad and said, hey, can I do that? And I remember my dad pausing for a minute and saying, yeah, I think it would be good. I think one of the reasons is he thought, as a young man, it's going to be great for you to get out there in the real world, to get some no's. And I just took it serious. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of like you see a vision and you see people that are achieving, and that's what I wanted. And I became successful with that company at the age of 20 or 21 years old. And I didn't really have the approach of business. I just looked at it as talking to people about telecommunications at the time and saving them money on their long distance.
Yep.
And my journey is a little bit different than Stephan's, and I think that from a perspective of, I fell in love with the personal development side of it, and the ability. I always say that in college I was very fortunate to walk on a basketball team that had 11 guys that went from at the University of Kentucky to playing college to playing in the pros. And
that's a lot from one team. Yeah, I mean that's
yeah. And so I really, telecommunications kind of had this fall. And I didn't know that companies went out of business, had no idea, and so I just thought literally at the age of 23, I got making, some really good income, and I thought I was retired. Like I thought this is it for me. Like I'm not going to work, that's how kind of naive I was at a young age. But the journey's been incredible.
Yep.
And, it's kind of taken me, I think the number one thing that's kind of an illusion sometimes in life is this word called stability.
Mm-hmm.
It's we all have to create stability within ourselves, but also sometimes, there's going to be fluctuations. Business is business no matter what industry you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I experienced some ups and downs, ebbs and flows with not every company stays into business.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually kind of led me on my journey. I never sought out. And if you would have told me, 33 years? I mean, if you really take a look at just us sitting here together, it's about 100 years worth of experience.
That's a lot.
In the same industry, the same channel, and all of us have played every role that you could play.
That is actually.
Wait, does that mean we're all old? Are you saying we're all old?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of years.
Oh, me. It seems like yesterday. But if you would have told me you could write a script, because you all hear the Mark Hughes story, right? The Amway and the Herbalife, that was what everyone aspired to in the 90s. And if you would have told me I could write a script on my entrepreneurial journey, that I'd be sitting in this building, collaborating in a partnership to reinvent and to what I really call transform or transcend the market, really kind of where I think the trajectory of Herbalife was, to where when people looked at the brand, they identified it with impact. They didn't identify it as a sector of what the industry is. I always use Nike as an example. Nike is a brand that people have an emotional association to. Mm-hmm. They don't even know where it started. They just think of just do it. But it started with a guy literally just gluing waffle iron rubber soles to soles of shoes. It wasn't even a shoe company at the time. But today, it's inspired people to become better versions of themselves. And that's really kind of been my passion along my journey was, this is a platform for anyone, our industry and our channel, to really not only become the best version of themselves and grow, but also have a financial component to, as they grow, they can earn from the same platform. And that's super unique. Usually you have to do it in two separate components. And so for me, my journey was a little bit different in terms of, I never really wanted to get on the ownership side. But if you would have told me where my journey started, that we would be here with what I think is the biggest infrastructure to be able to really make massive impact, it would have been a dream come true.
Yeah.
And so I got introduced, the company I was with was kind of up and down, went out of business. I ended up getting introduced to our partner, Terry LaCour. And, he said, look, I was really frustrated because as a distributor, the word transparency is used a lot today. It wasn't back then, but I never knew what was going on. I remember one of the company leaders talking to the field distributors as the company was getting into trouble, saying, well, we need to spin this to the field. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Spin this to the field is, and so I literally was just dejected, and someone introduced me to Terry, a good friend of mine, and said, you just need to meet this guy. And Terry goes, well, you're not going to be happy unless, control your own destiny. Let's do something together. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about starting a company. He goes, it's okay, I do. I know the operations side. You have the marketing side. You do what you do great. I'll do what I do great. And, that was about 14 years ago.
Wow.
And that's been a great learning lesson. And that's got us to, when we launched Pruvit and we're able to commercialize the technology that we did, is keeping the focus around people, keeping the focus around impact and personal development. Is, we all have a dream, and, some people lose sight of it along the way, but it's in there. proving it means to demonstrate it's real. It's meaning to take an action. And so, sitting here to me is just, like I said, it's a lot of people have a misunderstanding of acquisition. They think it's, someone's selling out to cash out, or, but there's a lot of different reasons why to partner. And I believe that we were able to take our vision as, you came on and partnered with us to a level, but I think our vision was bigger than what we had the engine or the infrastructure or the legs to support to broaden our impact and to go further faster. And so this wasn't sought out. And, I think you're a big component, Blake, and your ingenuity, your ability to connect people, and your passion for everyone in our channel, in our industry, is really why we're sitting here. And so I want to, first of all, thank you, because we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for your ambition to just connect with incredible people like Stephan. And you sought out that relationship, and it was really just a relationship of people coming together.
I sought out the relationship.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Brian,
Well, he was excited about it. He was excited about it.
We'll get there. We got to tell that story.
We'll tell
get to
this
that
story.
yeah.
But so you said something that I think is really important. You said the vision that you had for the future, like with Pruvit, and then being able to do what you wanted to do with it. Like, we wouldn't be here if you hadn't had, and you guys hadn't had the vision, actually, because it was the vision that captured our attention, right? Because of where you were going, how you were seeing the future of health and wellness, the platform that you were building. So, the vision is what made things happen. I mean, and so this is not like that vision was going to happen. The speed at which and the size at which it can happen because of the partnership now, this is next level. But what I'm really impacted by is, number one, we all came through having found the opportunity of direct sales, network marketing. Like, we were all exposed, and you're going to tell your story in a second because it's amazing. You guys have both lived founding or co-founding companies as owners. I've never experienced that. So that's one thing that you guys, I never, I'm one company, 34 years now, never experienced anything. Haven't experienced also not having the control and being in a company and then the company going away, right? Or the leaders of the company saying, hey, let's spin something, right? And the destiny being in the hands of someone else. I've always been lucky because we've never gone through that in Herbalife. Even when the hard times came, the battles came, the company fought through, always did what was right. So I think there's something that's special there. But hearing kind of the stories, it just, number one, it makes me think this industry is freaking incredible, first of all. From a life-changing, individual opportunity finding, this is proof right here. Now, not everyone has that level of success. Not everyone is going to start a company, found a company, grow a company, or join a company and be in a company for 34 years. So I think that the industry is amazing and gives amazing opportunity. But I think it's also something special within individuals because not everyone accomplishes the same level. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there because as two founders, that's a big deal. To go from nothing. And just going back to Mark Hughes, who founded Herbalife, like nothing. And he says, he's from the back, trunk of his car, the first customer, the first distributor, and building from the ground up. Yep. I mean, that's something I've never experienced, and both of you have. So it's just huge. And I think that this is all meant to be. And there's a lot of power in the 93 years.
That what it is, 93 years.
Yeah. For you, I mean,
totally resonate with what you're saying on like an entrepreneur's dream, and the more that I see within kind of these walls, and it's not even walls, right? I mean, the global community, the bigger that vision or that dream gets of like what we really have here and what this can be and will be. But I didn't even connect the dots until I was hearing you tell your story. I was focused on like Stephan's story is so awesome, like 32-year distributor into CEO. We all started in the same place. So you talk about founder, but we actually all started
distributors.
in the field.
Yeah.
And none of us had planned on going into the ownership, founder, or executive side. It just, sometimes doors open the way they're meant to.
Weren't we all supposed to be retired by now?
Yes.
Sitting on a beach somewhere and just like...
It is.
you know.
So for me, it was, I mean, and I'll date myself as well. It was an AOL instant message in my college dorm room and UC, right, SD that led me to my first, opportunity conversation, and started in the field. And it was just like you, it was personal growth. It wasn't even the financial opportunity for me. It was really, I fell in love with the growth aspect, the people that were thinking differently. And then you can only be around an environment like that for so long before you learn a thing or two and you start to think differently, and then you get different results. And then 5 years in, I did think I was retired. I'm probably like most of us. And then the company went out of business. So similar to Brian's journey, actually it was the same telecom kind of bubble, right? And then deregulation, different companies, but same season. And then that put me on the ownership side out of necessity. It wasn't a desire. It was trying to actually save something because we'd spent years building a vision, right, that people were following. And then that became, right, the brand that I helped co-found, and then that went through every season, from scrappy startup to almost out of business and recession to a crazy multi-year momentum, and everywhere in between. And then ultimately is what introduced me to Brian, right? And Terry, a little over 5 years, we're coming up on 6 years. Yeah. It's interesting because one company, 34 years. Yeah. Bunch of up and downs, but Pruvit now 10 years, 10 years, right? I mean, so 10 years, a decade. For me, it's an interesting story because technically it's only been one company. It's just the company I got started in, went out of business, got acquired, became a company we founded. That company went up, down, all around, then became Pruvit, and now it's become Herbalife. You're probably... So I'm actually only one company. It just had a bunch of different jerseys. But between the three of us, it is interesting perspective in the channel. But you both alluded to something on like what led us here. And Brian, I want to piggyback where you kind of left off, because when the news hits the press and you hear like acquisition, companies coming together, you get everybody assuming, right? And this is the first conversation since a press release, right? That we've actually had real dialogue directly from the sources of like why, what this means, where this is going. So I think it's a real opportunity to just give the candid truth, right, behind what has led us here.
Yeah. I mean, I would love just to kind of hear that perspective of, number one, why Herbalife never looked at acquisitions, and then like why now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and even and the story of even how we got here, right? So from your perspective,
so a couple things that I'm present to. Number one is I think we're all here because we want to make an impact, right? You don't, you said you became, you acquired from a distributor because you wanted to save the company. And the reason why you wanted to save the company was because you cared about the people, right? And when you care not only about the people, but you, from a distributor standpoint, but also the people that you're going to impact, when you acquire a technology or you find something that can make an impact, right? So I think it's, and again, it's, I don't want to say it's unique, but I think it's pretty unique, okay, that we are all here and have gone through everything that's gone through 33 years, 34 years, 26 years, right?
That's a lot.
And all of the things that people could have walked away from and gone and done something else or cashed out or just gone into something, because there's a lot of ways to make money, but sticking to this industry to make an impact is the thing. And so, Brian, I can't speak for the previous 40 and when I was a distributor.
Right.
And I think Herbalife, one of the things, and maybe from the outside looking in, we never really focused on what was happening outside from an industry standpoint. And to be honest with you, you talk a lot about channel, and it's strange because now that we are in other conversations, you realize that actually there is a whole channel.
It's a whole
channel.
There's a whole
industry.
It was actually inspired by, I would say, Amway and Herbalife.
Right.
It became a channel because of the
That's true.
the pioneership that
and I think the channel there's been if I'm not mistaken, like literally thousands of companies.
Oh, yeah.
That have over 40 years, right, have come on. And unfortunately, a lot of stories of that you experienced, but you guys also took responsibility and said, listen, not only am I going to be kind of impacted by whatever happens in the channel, I'm going to take responsibility to make sure that we can have control, right? And so, I think number one, can't speak to the past, but we never looked at other companies as a strategy. And we never would have looked at this opportunity as a strategy either. The only reason why it came about was because there was an alignment. And when Michael asked if I would come into the company, after coming back his third time, he understood that there was a need to modernize. He's a visionary, 2 decades. Mark Hughes started it 2 decades, Michael 2 decades, a little bit more. But Michael, even today, I receive texts from him at 3 a.m. from some news, Axios. Hey, did you see this is happening in the industry?
Going.
I've never seen someone so curious about everything, but also understanding like that the world is changing and it's time to change, and you need that change, that leadership change to come. So the reason why it came about is because one of the things that we were looking at for the first time as a company that kind of was, and big, right? So $5 billion, 95 markets, second largest in the industry, never really was too outside facing, but one of the first things that happened when I came in, became a board member, is I'm like, look, I want to go to one of these industry events. Like I think to not be paying attention to what's happening in the industry, that's probably not the right thing. We're big, yes. We're number 2, yes. But there's a lot of things outside. And a lot of times smaller companies, it's like the speedboat compared to the cruise ship. And especially when you look at a company that's 45 years old, where it's the same marketing plan for 45 years, where the products, obviously technology changes and you're always updating, but you should be looking at how things are happening in the industry. And so that's really how we got connected, because, for the first time, probably in a long, long time, even as a board member, I'm like, I got to go to one of these industry events. I want to know, I want to hear. And there were things that we were experiencing inside of Herbalife that I just wanted the verification of what was happening outside. Was it internal to us, to our company, to our business, to our market, to, or was it really something that was market wide? And so that was probably the first eye-opening piece. So going and actually going out there. And that's where I heard different people speaking about the solutions to what was going on. And quite honestly, I attended a CEO forum as well, where it was hearing CEOs and what they were living inside of the companies. And so that's how our relationship started.
I think 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. So, number one, and by happenstance, LA based, starting to spend time here, we got connected because there was one particular thing that I was kind of interested in getting your insights, and we just developed a friendship. So I think that was an important move to actually start looking at what's happening outside of the walls of Herbalife. But Brian, it's never been a strategy. It really happened because of the alignment. And the alignment, it happened just because the proximity. We started to understand what you guys were up to, what Pruvit was up to, what they were thinking about the industry, where things were going, especially health and wellness, and kind of that vision that you were talking about. So that's really how it came about.
And it's interesting because it was so casual. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't strategic. It literally was a dinner over, a social conversation, and we started talking about obviously ketones, right, as the category. And, Pruvit was and has been the company that really created and led the category of that conversation. We talked a lot about business, and I remember because we were getting into an Uber. It was the last like 5 minutes.
It was waiting for the Uber to arrive after dinner.
So the point is, always make sure that you have the Uber conversation.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was really a biohacking conversation.
Yeah.
Because that was the genesis of kind of where the vision of Pro2col came from.
Well, that was the vision of where even Pruvit came from, right? I got a podcast with Dr. Dominique D'Agostino on it, being interviewed, actually as a bulletproof podcast. And, I think as entrepreneurs, the alignment that I hear, I have a quote that's on my desk, and it says innovation, because I believe in innovation, but I believe everyone can be an innovator. Innovators, how do you bring additional value to someone that they don't already have? But as an innovator or leading a company through innovation, it says there's one rule. You have to focus on the company that you are. Like, you have to manage where you are, but there's always two things taking place. You also have to manage and focus on the company you're becoming, because we're always becoming. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have our eyes set on what we're becoming, then we'll get kind of left behind. And even in the last, when we started, this whole biohacking conversation was very
early. Pruvit was
small.
Way early. Yeah.
But because of technology, the awareness to the general public and even in the last 3 years, has exponentially grown. And that's really where we started talking about, okay, we have this technology that's been a core, really component of, I would say, biohacking.
Yep.
Giving your body an additional real fuel source, almost like a macronutrient. But health and wellness is going so much further, faster, quicker than we could ever imagine. And the wealthy have been taking advantage of it and spending hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on all of this technology. So I think we all had that alignment of like,
where it was
wow,
going.
Yeah. But I think you guys were ahead. I mean, ketones, just because of cycling, by the way.
Yeah.
I had heard about it because the professional cycling, Lance Armstrong.
Yeah,
and
Tour de France.
So I think you guys were ahead in terms of the conversation, and I think it caught up, right? And it's starting like converging from everywhere. And again, you talked about, are we old? 56 is the new 36 as far as I'm concerned. And biohacking is going to help to kind of extend that. But I think that was when we started to have the conversation around biohacking and like where we were going. It was kind of like, so we're on the same path. Because that was kind of that was the Uber conversation.
That was waiting for the Uber conversation.
And what was interesting is, I mean, let's face it, like, it's a race. Brian, you say this all the time. Like, it's a race, right? It's a race not only within the industry of getting there, but it's a race mainstream getting there. Okay. And by the way, maybe because of who we are and what shows up on our feeds, like, it's not 99% of Americans, they're not having the same thing show up on their feeds. But for a certain audience and it is very mainstream and becoming even more so. And so the whole conversation around the biohacking, that was like, there's a connection here. So we're racing. That was the first thing, because it is a competitive market. And so there was almost this moment of like, okay, do I say too much? Do I not say? But because of the relationship, it was kind of like, okay, let's just, because there was trust, right? Let's spill. Like, okay, so here's what we're thinking. We want to become the world's health and wellness platform. And we've got 2 million distributors and we got 65,000. And this is where we're going. This is how we're looking at things. And then it was like, should we talk about Pro2col? And I remember, Blake turned to Terry and he's like, should we talk about Pro2col? It was almost, there was this moment of, should we or should we not? Yeah. And then it was, and I'm like, Pro2col? I'm like, I think we should talk about it.
We're going to do another meeting.
And so that was, and then it ended with, there's this thing called Pro2col. Yeah. And we're on this similar path. And then just as an entrepreneur, someone that built and understands, like, you have to jump, you have to move, like, you cannot wait. Like, in this race, you cannot wait.
I mean, you moved fast. I think it was 2 weeks later-ish, or a couple of weeks.
So
you had your whole executive
conversation. 2 weeks later, we flew down.
Like the whole executive team, right?
Chief
Flies
operating
in.
officer, chief commercial officer, chief doctor. I mean, flew down and it's like, tell us what you have.
Yeah.
And so that was really.
You wanted to see under the hood, like.
Yeah, but so I think, as much as you were saying, like, this wasn't planned, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I reached out because it had nothing to do with this, but we developed a relationship. And then there was like, we're on the same path. So let's at least go down the road and see if there's a conversation around, can we do something together? Should we do something together? Is there value in doing something together? Are we aligned enough to do something together? The interest, the vision, and everything. And I think.
And are we both bringing value to the table to each other?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it was like, once we clearly saw that there was alignment. By the way, also culturally, as far as the way we look at business, from your stories, who you are as leaders and what you've experienced and the reason you do things, like cultural alignment is there. There's no question. But it was really the alignment. Like and then just as an entrepreneur, you move fast and like you say it, 1 + 1 makes 11. Like, so that's really how it came about. And, I think for a company that never had an acquisition strategy per se, like as part of even the size that we are, this one just really made sense and was complicated. Not only was it, another company in the industry that we've never ever done an acquisition, it was with a technology that was new and kind of leading technology and something that we had no idea about, with this opportunity of an exclusive technology and energy source and from a worldwide distribution and wanting to bring something exclusive and unique to the market, to a platform which was in development with this particular vision. And although the alignment is, 90% the same from an Herbalife standpoint, just from a operational DMO markets,
Just
direction,
even size,
right? Yeah. So
scale, I guess, would be a better term.
Correct. And then there was the manufacturing piece, right? This opportunity to do something that no other direct sales company and very few other traditional companies even have access to. That's been
go into that a little bit, because people read. I think people know Herbalife. People know Pruvit. People are questioning, okay,
Pro2col,
what's Pro2col is the question.
Platform.
And then you got this like Link BioSciences in the press release. And we don't have to go into everything, but you can talk about manufacturing. Like, why that piece?
Yeah. So well, number one, I believe the universe aligns. Like, if you've got a strong vision and mission, and I believe if it's really something that is going to do good for humanity, that the universe is like, we need this. Like, let's open the doors, let's make the connections. And so one of the things that came out of this connection and the relationship and your relationship, both with Terry and, the liqueur ecosystem, really was that there is this manufacturing process that's been in development that really is, and I'll use the word unique because it's unique in the way that it does it, but the opportunity, and this is also the vision, to do a one-to-one formulation for someone, right? Not just saying, hey, we're going to put the best doctors and science together and the best ingredients, we're going to formulate something that's going to be beneficial to a lot of people, right? So, hey, the best, digestive support product formulated that we can sell to a lot of people, even kind of maybe one for men or one for women or one for this particular thing, or in any type of, area where someone would want some nutritional support, but to actually go to a one-to-one formulation, because there's no one individual out of 8 billion people that are the same.
The same.
Yeah. So, without going into a lot of detail, that as an opportunity, when we saw it, was like, wait a minute, this is something that makes the rest of it, make even more sense, and really gives us an opportunity to do something that no one in the industry has. And it's early emerging technology, right? There's a limitation to that machine, but the science and the technology and the uniqueness of it, having
and the intellectual property of even putting everything together in the pieces, that's 10 years. I mean, a decade worth of trial, error, understanding.
Correct. And the data, and now you look at AI and how, things are moving. It's just, so these were strategic acquisitions to position the company to really take advantage of where things are going in the future. And so, I know we'll talk a little bit, maybe bigger vision, but the pieces came together. Yeah. And there's some other pieces as well. I mean, we'll kind of, I don't know if,
it is, and we don't have to go too far down here, but we all use the word, alignment, right? I've known Brian for 5+ years, right? I've had a chance to get to know you over the last 2 and a lot over the last 6 months. And the language and the philosophy and the beliefs are very similar, right? On a values level, right? Kind of faith-based. And like, I believe that. I mean, if we were to tell the full story amongst the three of us of like all the doors that opened, all the things that happened, all the moments, like you said, that kind of led to this, it's unexplainable. Like, it's crazy.
Meant to be is the only reason.
Meant to be, and I don't want to.
And everyone's journey's like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't say yes to the coach, or you didn't ask your dad to call him back, would I be sitting here?
Yep.
And then even if you shorten that scale in the last 6 months,
Yeah.
and the exciting news is, I think, is where is this all going in the next 2 years?
100%.
And there's a lot of people that are going to be able to say yes, because when I look at this wall, what I think, there was a learning lesson that I had as an entrepreneur, and we were trying to do something very innovative when apps came out, and being able to track people's what we called ripple value, to give people a value of them sharing the apps with other people, because that's how apps truly got distributed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the time, we decided to do a viral campaign to build basically an app tracker to assign your ripple value to where you can monetize from your influence in the market. Big vision. And I remember one of our
How many years ago was that?
14, 13.
See, that was very early.
Oh,
I mean,
Way early.
That's
Yeah.
way
right
early.
when the
Yeah.
Apple opened up the
App Store.
Yeah.
And I remember, a good friend of mine that I enlisted, like Russell Brunson, is like, hey, let's do this together. And I'll never forget our tech guy looking at me is like, because marketing wise, vision wise, we had everything there. I mean, I still believe to this day that platform should exist. But he's like, we're going to need a bigger boat. Mm-hmm. We're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah. And what he meant by that is like the scale in which this is going to connect people, you have to have the technology to support it. And in order to have the technology to support it, you have to have the resources to develop it. And so as I sit here, and with our initial vision and incubating what people will start learning about pretty soon as a phased rollout of what Pro2col truly is, right? It's going to be this evolution. Is that word kept coming to my mind this time last year as we were developing we're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a bigger boat. So as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the timeline, and I'm like, I truly believe all of this is the beginning to impact where wellness is going. And you don't have to listen to us. All you have to do is like listen to thought leaders, academia,
everywhere,
scientists is talking about where health and medicine and wellness is all converging and going because of understanding and because of real science. It's amazing.
Well, I want to go there, but before just...
Because it's very forward thinking, right? So if you were 14 years ago, like had a vision of where apps were going to go and monetizing, the impact or the influence that someone would have, and actually figuring out a model for it, and then the cost of even hosting the amount of data and everything at that time.
And my whole point was we put on 1.9 million users in 30, 40 days. It crashed the system. We could not, in order to actually, we couldn't recover from it, but it needed tens of millions of dollars to support it, which we didn't have. We were trying to build it on a shoestring.
But like that was very technology forward thinking, right? And how to leverage the network. And I know that in your, past experience, because we've talked, even with the company that you co-founded, there was technology.
Always. Yeah.
Which,
Innovation.
But that, like from a platform standpoint, I think that's one of the reasons why, and again, this is back to the technology of ketones, to what you were thinking 14 years ago, before even apps was a thing the way it is today, right? And, what you had done with ViSalus in terms of the different tools that you had and what the network that you created even internally, like way ahead of kind of what mainstream was happening. And that is partially when we saw the platform that you guys were developing, Pro2col, it was like, these guys are ahead. This is, and this was for us because we were on the same pathway. And for us, it was, we were already talking platform. I mean, for us, vision was world's premier health and wellness company, community, and platform. And the company had invested heavily into the infrastructure and the foundation that was needed. And we were getting to this point of now let's start to think the front facing, the commercial opportunity, the power in the hands of distributors. And that was the timing. And so it's just very interesting to hear you because the innovative aspect of developing the tools and the platform, it sounds like this was something that was kind of just already part of what you were. And the reason why you'd really gone down the pathway of Pro2col, which led us to say, okay, we can either go and develop our own, which what they have is probably where we would go, or do we come together and put the pieces together and then do something much bigger? And did all of this happen for a reason, right? So that was kind of, sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but
well, keep going. I mean, and you use the words kind of shared vision a lot, and that's what you're describing is we, even though we were at that time, right, on different paths, we had a shared vision of where we wanted to go, which is obviously why we're here. But continue. I mean, I know we have... I know we have a beta, right, kind of set to roll out in July, right, at our extravaganza event. And I know we're kind of sprinting right now for like in October, kind of Q4. But like, talk, what does that mean? Like, talk to us about the shared vision.
Well, why don't we do this? Because what you explained in terms of the vision for the platform, that is what really kind of, I don't want to say convinced, but it was like, that passion, that vision, and I know how it started, when you explained the genesis of it, right? It was like, hey, together with Dr. Ryan, like, what do we need to do with our own personal... So I think that's important because I'm not going to tell the story, but that was the genesis, which is representing millions of people today, but tens and hundreds of millions of people in the future, and then meeting them there where they're going to be, and us building it now. That's the opportunity. So I love the Genesis story because I think it represents, and it represents, it's real. It represents myself. It represents tens of thousands of Herbalife distributors currently in their journey, and hundreds of millions of people in their journey. So tell that first, because that one is, and then I'll build on top. But
you're putting it back on us.
Because
you start.
You guys created the platform. You guys created the platform, right?
I think there's so many people that can relate to this, honestly, because how many people do we know that I'm just going to give you like a loose, and I'm going to let you kind of tell the Genesis story because I really do think that it should come from you. But like, just to relatability, how many people right now have tried an ice bath in the last 2 years, right?
That had never tried one before.
Right,
ever.
exactly. Because in that, kind of, this is probably 2 years ago, me, Dr. Ryan, and Blake, we were talking, we had this core 4 program. We're like, let's just push each other. And so I bought a cold plunge, Blake bought a cold plunge, but it all was in the spirit of us becoming better. Like what are the little things that we can do to give ourselves an edge, to feel better longer, as we're, if you want to say getting older, but I think it doesn't matter what age someone is. So that right there, logically, and if people haven't done it, they've thought about doing it. I'm just telling you, how many people do we know? So if you want to really look at the genesis of it, I think that it really starts personally with, even you have on a Whoop band. I have on an Oura ring. But I'll just never forget, really, we're looking at innovation as Pruvit. And by the way, we weren't shopping Pruvit. Our intention is never, as a company, just like Herbalife, you're going to face adversity. You're going to face fluctuations in the market. As founders or as, executives or as vision, whatever you want to say, we have to focus on what is the company we're becoming.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that COVID's not an excuse. COVID was real. It put a lot of companies focused or paused on focusing on what they're becoming.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we were getting back to our roots. It's like, okay, we have this technology. However, we're 10 years young now, right? You always have to reinvent or go forward. But it was really our personal journeys that was inspiring us to we need to do something to get ahead of where everybody's going.
Yeah. But if you can solve the problem for yourselves, and it's the same problem that everyone has.
But that's where it started.
Then you have it,
That's where it started, right? Yeah. And it's like what Brian was saying, is the Pruvit culture, the mission's going after better, very similar to the Herbalife, right? Message and mission right now, like your best life. So that has always been the spirit. And part of the community was always kind of the biohacking conversation that we talked about. But it really started with Brian and I on a text thread, right, with Dr. Ryan, wanting to improve our own health and our own journey, and him putting together protocols on Google Docs of all the things that we were supposed to be doing. And then the frustration of us who have been in the health industry a long time, right, and have access to information, and how difficult it just was to get all the pieces. I mean, sitting there, all the different supplements, right? Go to the LabCorp, get the blood, then they give you this long sheet. And I've been in the health industry for decades. I still don't know what all that stuff means. I don't know where I was 6 months ago when I got it measured before. And asking the questions of why can't all this be in one simple place where you can measure, right, what matters, understand the decisions, right, that we should make for our own health goals, right? Have a, guidance or a platform that tells you what you need to do, right? And that's where the genesis, right, came from. Like you said, it was really a problem for ourselves and a recognition that right now the solutions are fragmented, they are complex, they are expensive, but it's something that everybody wants to solve, right? And I think that was kind of the origin of kind of what led Pro2col to being where it's going.
Yeah. How do you put all of these confusing pieces of what's real, what's not in this new era of health and wellness? How do you fit it together in a simplistic way that impacts me on the outcomes that I want? And what is the real protocol that I need to follow?
Yeah.
For the individual, like you were saying, right?
And it's complex, right? I mean, if you think about it, because you have, and I think we're all aligned on this, but the future of our model, how we go to market, the person to person, the coaching, the community, the simplification of something. For some people, they want simple. Some people want to just say, hey, tell me what to do. And I'm never going to go do blood but tell me how I should eat. Tell me what supplements I should be taking. Tell me. So there's this level of, simple person to person. And if you look across, if you take the United States, 330 million people, you go from the East Coast to the West, you go north to south to north. There's all kinds of people, their level of interest and how sophisticated they want to be. That's the complicated part, because as a company and as an opportunity, when you have tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, some of them are very, very simple and some of them they're not. And so how do you come up with a simple solution, but at the same time scale and give accessibility to everybody? Because some people do want to spend the $100,000 for their health and wellness, and they because they are more sophisticated, because they're looking for solutions that are less common, but yet someone wants to spend 150. And so how do you kind of take it all, and how do you make it available at the right time to the right people and brings people along a journey, right? Because you talk about it, decades in the health and wellness industry, but you didn't become the sophisticated, understanding, financially, capable to actually go out and buy the cold plunge, and some people the $100,000 red light. So the taking the complexity of it and all of the pieces and making it available in one place in a logical way that fits our model, that people can monetize and leverage what's always been super amazing, which was start here and just do these actions and you can end up here. Like that's the sophistication in making it simple, right? It's a very sophisticated, complicated thing, but making it simple that's where the power is in my mind.
Yeah, and I think you hit a huge piece of awareness for everyone is like we all are at a baseline of somewhere, but the evolution of who we become can become very contagious. It can become very addictive, and giving people the access that they can trust in the right time that they're ready for it, but you never stop the journey of progression.
Correct.
And that journey of progression, I think, is what honestly gets people to fall in love with our industry, gets people to fall in love with living their best life or pursuing better. Because I think once you do that, that to me is really the base or the genesis of why we're even sitting in these seats. And our journey for better or for our best life started 34, 33 years ago by something that triggered it. And I think that with the technology today, there's always going to be more awareness. And if you can find one solution of someone that's leading that, then you always have this comfort that you're not missing out on something else. You just stay the course.
Yeah.
I just love when you said the evolution, because it is. It's
Yeah.
giving people that evolution of technology or what they need when they need it. And I think that having something for everyone through a platform is, or some people don't even know what they need. They don't even know where they're at,
Yeah.
you know?
But I do think if we look into the future, most would agree that, okay, if you have the option to make decisions based on your own data, what's really going on in your body, right? Your biometrics, right? To use but something that's evidence-based,
Yeah.
you'd rather start from a baseline that you know is where you're at so you can decide where you want to go. And most people aren't even starting with visibility into their baseline,
Yeah.
right? And then, if someone would ask, would you rather have a personalized solution based on where you're at, or a one-size-fits-all you bought off Amazon? I think most people would say,
Yeah.
I'd want a personalized solution. And like you said, health isn't just one thing. It is a comprehensive approach. It's not just what we take, it's what we do, it's how we act. So those things are really simple to say, of like, yes, that's what we would want, an evidence-based, right? A personalized, holistic. But where do you go? Where do you, but where do you go to get that solution?
Step
right?
by step.
Step by step.
Yeah.
So
And people stepping in at different levels.
Yes.
Because some people are already doing the red light. They're already, getting their blood panels like you were talking about. And it's a percentage. It's a small percentage, but it'll grow. So I think about two things when I think about the opportunity ahead. And again, part of this is going to get out there, and we want to share, but there's some things that we don't want to share.
we're in that Uber moment.
We're in that Uber moment of, so let's stay high level vision. I think
October.
Yeah. So I think just one thing is, when you're clear on what your mission is, and I've said this before, is that we're at the starting line of the marathon, right? Because this is never going to change. Technology, data, health and wellness, science, like our commitment to be the world's premier health and wellness company, community, and platform, that is the commitment. How you pay attention to technology, science, nutrition, the modalities that are out there, the different tests that are out there, what's leading in the industry, what people are looking for, and how you put it all together, and you just be that innovative company that you talk about, is really important. And so, number one, there's that piece I think that's really important, because the other theme here was that there's not a lot of stability. And by the way, health and wellness, I mean, you both experienced telecom. Telecom came and telecom went. Health and wellness will never come and go. It'll evolve, right? And opportunities. And we see that today, what's happening. We see that the technology, the world we live in, the accessibility to information, the direct to consumer opportunity, we see pivots that are happening in terms of health and where people go to get, we see how people trust, how they look at doctors and medicine today, very different than they did, and more of them looking for a natural approach and taking it into their own hands and not just putting it. It used to be,
Being proactive.
Being proactive, yeah. And then there's the behavior and the support. So there's so many pieces that are there. So I look at this in two pieces. One is, number one, our commitment as a company to be the health and wellness platform of the world, and what that entails. Because as soon as that's your commitment, you have no option but to be looking at everything that's out there and then figuring out how to fit it in, because it's what we're creating. Number two, what that does for an opportunity for people. Like to be a part of a company, number one, that, has a 45-year-old legacy, that is designed and has certain things about us that we will never go to another channel. We will never. You see it in the industry today. Every other month it feels like there's a company going out of business, going
Changing
to
their
another
business
channel,
model,
changing their business model.
Going to affiliate.
Because of our history, we would never go.
Well, that's super interesting. I don't know that the
people know,
channels even know, like, I mean, Herbalife actually has an agreement with
100%.
its distributors, a
Correct.
commitment.
A commitment. So when Mark Hughes passed away, there was this moment like, oh no, like we all knew Mark, trusted Mark, we knew where his heart and his passion was. But now all of a sudden the company was like up for sale, and it was like, okay. And people wanted to buy the company. And so in that moment, some of the distributor leaders were like, wait a minute, like, first of all, who's buying us? And what does this mean for our future that we've spent 20 years building? And so the distributor leadership negotiated with the company at that time. It's an agreement that basically says Herbalife does not have the right to go to other channels, and that all the sales have to come through distributors. Okay, so number one, I don't know of any other company in the industry that has that. We have that. Okay, so number one, it's not even an option, and it would be the worst option anyway, and you should never do it from someone that was a distributor for 32 and a half years. Okay,
right.
It just is not. So there's that piece. And so there's then the opportunity. So that agreement is there, first of all. And there's some other pieces to it that are really important. Not only that, but having come through the FTC, because one of the other things that's kind of like this, and you said it, Brian, before, like transcending the industry, right? There is, kind of a perception of the industry that this is kind of, it's that thing. It's like, the Amway, the Herbalife, the Avon, the selling around the kitchen table. I mean, we've been through the FTC, right? We've not only been through, but we've come through with flying colors, and we've proven.
Came out the other side
stronger, right? So again, we just did Herbalife. We were never thinking industry and how other people would see us or what other people and how they did things. We were always kind of thinking just of ourselves, knowing our core principles and values, and just building the way that we build. So coming into this role now, it's like, how do we take this opportunity around health and wellness and where things are going and this commitment? And then how do we bring the best opportunity to distributors that's a forever opportunity? Okay, right. So and forever meaning forever, because you never know what happens in the world. But that's the commitment. And so, that's what led to this acquisition. There's a lot of things I'd love to talk about and to go into detail, but it wouldn't be the right thing as a CEO and as what we're working on, because this is a competitive business. But I'll just say, we are creating the platform of the future that will give the best opportunity to anybody looking to invest their time and energy into building something. And I believe we're going to do it in a way that no one does it, and forget about just in the industry, but outside as well. And it's our birthright, in the sense that we have the millions of distributors. We have 65,000 locations around the world, more than Starbucks has, where every single day people are talking to people about their health and wellness. Now we're in the process in July of delivering the beta platform.
Beta's coming.
And in October, a commercial launch here in the United States. And I think it's going to change the industry. I think it'll be the beginning of the transcendence of our industry, actually. And, that there will come this day in the future where it's not, it's a MLM company, or it's a network marketing company, or it's a health and wellness company. And the power of the distribution and the way they go to market, it brings something to health and wellness for people that no one could ever have. Because I don't care what you see and going in on D2C, there's no way, there's not a person. And by the way, Mark Hughes, one of the most things was, he said, the products don't speak for themselves, right? It's the distributor that has a vested interest in your results, that's there to help you personally. At scale, if it's not in our industry, I don't know how anybody could scale that. Even if you could onboard a million customers as a direct to consumer, how many customer service people would you have to have so someone could actually pick up something? And I get it, AI, you could talk to an AI and they could answer for you.
Yeah.
But
connection.
It's only in this industry.
Right.
So you combine all of those things together, and I think that's the uniqueness, and that's the vision, right? It's to do something and to bring an opportunity that has never existed in this way in our industry, that is in the health and wellness. And so we've got an opportunity to impact people, humanity, and an opportunity for people to experience what we've experienced as distributors, and what for us was like life-changing, that has us being here today.
Well, I think what you're describing is, to use Brian's term, I mean, it is the entrepreneur's dream. And I see it's the best of both worlds, right? It's the 45 years, you can call it legacy, but that's 45 years, 95 countries, $5 billion in revenue. At a time, by the way, let's just be honest, where in our channel, there is a lot of turmoil and a lot of decisions being made, and safety and security and protection as a foundation, right, is important. And we have 45 years of that, but also now bringing a new era, a next generation, an innovation, right? A forward thinking, right? That type of culture, right? Together, like, I can't think of a better scenario for our communities, right? And for new entrepreneurs of where we're going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel very, you said entrepreneur's dream. I really feel a lot of gratitude and feel very blessed, not only to be here, but, really to have the relationship with you. And then also forging the relationship with you. I think one of the first times we I told Terry, I was like, that's someone I could follow because of what I felt. It's not because of what you said. And I think just to honor some decisions that I know, you come into, I always talk about a speedboat in the water versus a barge. And Herbalife is a giant. It is a giant. And to take the reins of a giant, to step out of the box, to innovate at the level that you are doing, and doing it right at the genesis of you doing that takes a lot of not only courage, but a lot of confidence and certainty of where you're going. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that and appreciate the trust and the relationship and the proximity of power and trusting. In a direct sales meeting, there was a guy that said a quote, and it's stuck with me ever since, but I think that you're the epitome of that, and that is dream big and be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid. And I think that we're all still dreaming a bigger dream, and I think that Mark Hughes would want that. I think that the mentors that I had would always encourage that. My dad, who's my hero, would want that, and I just want to tell you all how much I appreciate that and how blessed that we feel to even share this message with anybody listening in. Is this wasn't a decision from a position of weakness. It was a decision of growth. And I just look forward to the journey ahead.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well,
So
I was
maybe-
going to say, I know we could talk here for
No,
hours.
talk for us. You said something earlier, Brian, which was becoming the company that you want to become and still being the company that you are. And then there's this gap, right? So there's bridging the gap. And I think that's part of what's happening here, right? So you guys have been very innovative. Starting a company 10 years ago, by the way, is different than starting a company 45 years ago. The way you look at the market, the opportunity, the way people go to market, what's happening. And so I think this is the best of both worlds, and together, taking the opportunity of who we've been, who we want to become, and then bridging is going to be the beauty of the journey. So I appreciate your words, and it's a pleasure. And as you were saying, we could spend hours.
We could.
More to come.
More to come. A lot more to come.
I think we got to do more of this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first.
Yeah.
So July, more news coming for beta.
July, beta launch.
And it's a
Again.
process. I think anything that you're developing that's going to be great for everyone listening in, it's not going to be baked day one.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
the beginning of the process of the biggest wellness platform in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the exciting news. We're all at the genesis of something great.
We are at the beginning. Yeah. So more to come.
More to come. I know 45 years for Herbalife, but the energy you're bringing, to echo Brian's sentiments there, and for a lot of the community now coming in, it's a day one, right, for us and for many of us. And I think it's going to be a new beginning for a lot of people. They're going to get to know Herbalife and now Pro2col in a whole new way.
Yeah.
So thank you for leading. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for everything up until this moment. And we'll do more of this.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.